If you are just starting out on bass guitar, then you are in the right place. In this video, you're going to learn exactly what you need to get started without any of the confusion that so many students suffer from when they're just starting out. Now, to keep things clear and focused, I've split this video into 6 different categories. So with that said, let's get into it. Hey, it's Scott Devine here from scotsbasslessons.com, helping you take your bass playing to the next level. And on this channel, we focus on one thing and one thing only. We focus on bass. We do YouTube tutorials, we talk about gear and everything in between. So if you are new here and just starting out on bass, make sure that you slap that subscribe button down below. Now, before we get into this, there are also some accompanying downloads that you can grab, a drum groove that you can play along with, and also a fretboard diagram with all of the notes on as well. So if you want to grab them, they're totally free, and I've put the download link in the description down below. So the first category I want to look at is the parts of the bass. Now, the first thing I want to shine a light on are these things here. Okay, the strings, these pieces of wire here. This is a 4-string bass. It's probably likely that you have a 4-string bass. You can also get 5 strings, 6 strings, and hell, you can go wild, 10-string basses and all of those shenanigans as well. Now, for beginners, I actually recommend starting out on a 4-string bass because it keeps things nice and simple, and I am a huge fan of keeping things simple. Now, next up is the body. This is this hunk of wood here, okay? On the body, you'll find these things here. These are called the pickups. There's actually magnets inside these. The magnets pick up the vibration of the string and then feed it down the cable into the amp and then out of the speaker, okay? So that's what these things are here. Now, this is the bridge, okay? This is the bridge. This is where the strings anchor into the body here, okay? And these little things here that the strings go over are called the saddles. So the whole thing's called the bridge, and then these little pieces here that the strings go over are called the saddles. So next are the controls. Depending on what type of bass you have, your controls will do some of the same things and some different things, okay? It will absolutely have a volume control on it, for instance. Now, the volume control does what it says on the packet. It does the volume, right? Okay. Now, also, if you've got a 2-pickup instrument, okay, like this, you will either have a blend control, which I've got on this, or you might have a two pickup instrument that has a volume for each pickup. So that's the volume. We've got the balance, how to balance between the pickups, and then we've got a little what's called an active EQ as well. So remember hi-fis, okay? And on a hi-fi, you've got like a graphic EQ. Remember the old 80s vibes, okay? Well, this is that on a bass. So you can boost the bass, you can boost the treble, and you can boost the middles with these 3 knobs here. Now, your bass might not have them. This is called an active bass, which means it's got active electronics in it. You might be thinking, well, how can I tell whether I've got an active bass or not? Your bass will have a battery inside this compartment if it is an active bass. So now the next thing is the neck, okay? Not this neck here, okay? So we've got the body, and the neck is attached to the body. Now, on the top of the neck around here, this brown thing here, this is called the fingerboard. Now, in the fingerboard, we've got these metal things here, okay? These are called the frets. Now, it's the frets that actually give us the control to be able to alter the pitch of the string, okay? So if I play an open G string, the thinnest string on your bass is going to be a G string, okay? I'm not holding it down. Now, if we put our finger behind the first fret, not in the middle. So many people will tell you to put your fingers right in the middle of the frets. I want it just right behind the fret, okay? If it's in the middle, you're gonna start getting the buzzing note. Okay, we don't want buzzing notes, okay? So you put it right behind the fret, okay? What are these things here? See these white dots? What's going on here? Okay, well, these are just called position markers, and they're just a reference point to let us know where we are on the bass, okay? So for instance, I know the first dot here is on the 3rd fret, the second is on the 5th fret, the third is on the 7th fret, 9th fret, and then the double dots is where the octave is, and that's the 12th fret. By octave, I mean, that's a G. If I hold down the double dots, I'm gonna get that G an octave higher. Same note, right? Next up is this white thing here. This is called the nut. This is what the strings go over, okay? They go over the nut, that white thing there, and then they go into these things here, which are called tuning pegs, or some people call them machine heads. So this is what you tune your bass with. Now, these things are sat on this thing, right? This extra, it's part of the neck, obviously, it goes up here, but this part is called the headstock. So the next category I want to look at is plugging in your bass, okay? So you understand what all of the parts are, okay? How do we actually get some sound out of it? Well, you're gonna need 3 specific things. Number 1, you're gonna need a bass, okay? So hopefully you've got that down. Number 2, you're gonna need a cable, okay? A cable, it's a jack cable, and then we're going to need an amp to plug into, okay? So your amp might look like this, or it might look like a small combo amp, which is where the speaker and the controls are all within one unit. So you get your bass. First of all, I want you to get your bass and just plug it in to the jack socket, like so. Make sure it's in there properly. A common mistake, even for pro musicians, is putting it in the jack socket and not pushing it in hard enough. Okay, so make sure you've got it. Then you get the other end, and then you put it into your amp, like so. And we should have, okay, some sound. Great. I've got a gain and master volume on this amp, but if you're just starting out, you will probably just have one volume. Now, also on your amp, you've got a bunch of different things. So let's talk about these and what to do with it, because when I see beginners play, they generally get this bit a little bit wrong and dial in some crazy tones, and we want to literally, pun intended, dial that back a bit, okay? Dial it back a bit. In general, an amp will have a treble, a middle, and a bass. Treble, middle, and bass, okay? Now this amp has a low mid. Yours may have it, may not. It's all good, right? What I want you to do is set the bass at 12 o'clock, the mid at 12 o'clock, and the treble at 12 o'clock. This means that your tone, you've got a flat EQ. Okay, this is what it sounds like. Sounds great, right? So we've got a flat EQ. Now you might want to boost certain frequencies. You do that by obviously using these controls. Me personally, I like to boost the bass to around 2 o'clock, and I sometimes boost the mid. Okay, and I've got 2 mid controls, but if I've just got 1 mid control, I still normally boost it a little bit to about 1 o'clock. And that's me. That's going to give me a good... You know, it's going to give me a really nice tone. So the next category I want to get into is tuning your bass. Tuning your bass. Beginners never do this enough. You should tune your bass every single day. Every single day. There's nothing to be scared of. Okay, it's super easy. First up, you should get a tuner. Get a tuner. You can get a pedal tuner like this. There's also probably the most popular thing now are the clip-on tuners that actually clip onto the headstock. But you need to learn to tune up not using a tuner as well. You need to actually learn how to do it on here. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, so first of all, let's learn our string names. You already know one. We all know the G string, right? We've got the G string down, which means we've only got 3 more to go. The lowest string here is an E. Lowest string's an E. Then we've got an A. Then we've got a D, and then we've got the faithful G string. Okay, so if you want to use an acronym for this, you can just remember every angry dog growls. Every angry dog growls. E, A, D, and G. How cool, right? Now remember, we've got that download as well below, which gives you a fretboard diagram with all of the notes on there. So make sure that you grab that. And it also comes with a drum track that we're going to be using later in this lesson as well. So once you've got your note names down, we need to know how to tune it without the tuner. Here's the technique that I think that all beginners should start out with, okay? So it starts out, you need to hold down on the 5th fret here, on the E string, you hold that down, and then the open A string. They're the same note, right? Now if it was like this, they're not the same note, so I would know that this note here would need to be ba. And then you do that on every string. So the next one you hold down the 5th fret of the A string, and then you play the open D. Make sure that they're the same note. And then lastly, you hold down the 5th fret of the D string, and then you play the open G string. And that's how you can check that the bass is in tune with itself, okay? Now, with the caveat of, remember, you need to make sure that the bass is in tune with other instruments as well, because you could actually tune a bass correctly to itself, but it's going to be out of tune with other instruments. That's where it really helps to, use something like this, so you can at least get one string in tune, okay, and then you can try and tune it yourself. Next up, I want to talk about technique. How are we actually fretting the notes? What are we doing with this hand? And how do we actually sit with the instrument as well? Because all of that is really critical. It's ultimately like the foundation of where everything starts. So first of all, I want to talk about when you're sitting with the bass, what position your bass should be in. When you practice, I want you sat down on a stool or a seat that has generally gives you a 90-degree bend on your leg, okay? So that means like your backside isn't stuffed down in a couch and your knees are sticking up in the air and your feet are out. And find a seat, like a dinner table seat or something like that, that you can sit on, that your leg is going to be generally at a right angle at, right? And you're going to have a nice straight back. You're then going to get the bass and you're going to put it on your right leg if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it's going to go on your left leg. Now, rookie mistake, when you start playing, you get the bass, you put it against your body like this, and great, and then you're trying to play. Now, look at me in this position. Do I suddenly look quite uncomfortable? Look at this arm. So do I play like this then? I can't do this. And I can't even play up here. How do I get rid of my elbow? Do I put it up here? This is what you do. And this is, don't worry if you've done this, because so many people do it, okay? See the headstock and see the body. Push out the headstock. Now look at my elbow. Whoa, it's great. So next up is plucking. What I'm going to do is show you a real simple exercise. We're going to play 8 notes on each string, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Now, what should you do with this hand? So when you're playing on this E string, I want your thumb to be on top of the pickup. This part of the arm here can be rested on here. You don't want too much of an angle, but a gentle angle is okay. So that's a gentle angle there. And I've got a space under here. This part of the arm is not against the bass. Now, when it comes to actually plucking the strings here, what I want you to make sure is that you're not plucking up. I don't want you plucking up. I want you to, this finger to hit your thumb. 1, and then with the middle finger, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want it really, really nice and smooth. Now that stroke there, that stroke is called the rest stroke. It's when you pluck the string and it falls into, well, in that case, it was falling into our thumb. But now if we do those 8 notes on the A string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to make sure that when we pluck that string, that our fingers fall into the string below. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, it's worth mentioning as well that you've probably seen I'm doing index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. That's what you want to start off doing right now. Just index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. None of this with the thumb or, just start off with index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. Trust me, you'll love me for it sort of like, a month or so down the line. So D string. And then you could do it on the G string. Okay, now me personally, I actually move my thumb as I go, like this. You can see my thumb like hopping along there. Some people actually always leave it on the top of the E string, okay, like this. Now, if you want to do that for now, that is fine. It's a focus that's down the road, so you shouldn't be worrying about it just yet, okay? Now, next up is fretting a note. We need to know how to fret a note, okay? And I did briefly go over this before, but what you want to make sure is that your fingers are not right in the middle of that space, okay? You want it right behind the fret, okay? You want it right behind the fret, and just experiment with moving it around. Now, when you're doing this, when you're pushing the notes down onto the frets here, you've got to make sure that the position of this hand is okay as well. So what we need to do is imagine you've grabbed like an orange size thing, okay? Orange. Bring it around here, and you put your thumb right on the back of the neck, okay? Right on the back of the neck, and then your fingers curled round. And then what you do want to make sure is that you've got a little hole right through here. And then this wrist needs to be dropped down. If you watch me play, that shape always stays the same. I'm not kind of like jiggling around or anything. It's all like that. It's all really nice and clean. And that's because I've got that foundational piece, that foundation part really dialed in and correct. Okay, so the next category I want to focus on is theory. Theory for beginners. And this can sound freaky or scary because we've all been at school and, you know, heard your music teacher say, let's talk about theory. And we're all like, no. This is just sort of like basic, easy theory to get you going. First of all, we obviously already know the names of the strings now, right? We've got the E, we've got the A, we've got the D and the G, right? But what happens if you're playing with a guitarist and he's like, I'm playing a C? What do you do? Okay, what do you do as a bass player? If he says, I'm playing a C, can you play something? Well, you actually play a C as well. And you play what's called a root note. So he's gonna play, the guitar player is gonna play the chord. The bass player, when we're just getting started, we play the root note of that chord, which is a C, okay? So, and the guitar player and the keys player can play their C major. As long as we're holding down that root note, remember the name, a root note, it means everything's gonna be good in the world. Now, the next thing is to understand what a half step is and a whole step. A whole step, I think of it as 3 frets, okay? And some people think about it as 2 frets. I'll explain, okay? So, for instance, this note to this note, I count 1, 2, 3. That's a whole step, okay? That's a whole step away. A half step would be, okay? That can also be called a tone, a whole tone, or a semitone. Okay, but most people, especially in the US, they think a whole step or a half step, okay? Now what I would recommend is learning the notes within the first 5 frets of the bass and just not worrying about the rest of it for now. First 5 frets of the bass is going to be a really, really great thing for you to do. To get that download, again, the download is just below and it will show you, well, it'll actually show you the notes of the entire neck, but we only want to, me and you, for now, we just want to focus on these first 5 frets. So now I want to teach you how to play an actual bass line. We're going to start slow, but then we're going to actually play it with a drum track as well, which I think is really important for beginners because we want to be, you know, we want to sound like we're actually making music. We don't want to just run exercises, right? We want to make real music. So if you want the drum track, it is available, totally free. It's with the fretboard diagram actually. All you need to do is hit the link down below. It'll take you through to a page and be able to get it there, okay? So the bass line itself only consists of 3 notes, okay? An open E, okay? Then we play the G on the 3rd fret. Don't worry about the name for now, just think the 3rd fret, 1, 2, 3 on the 3rd fret. Then we're gonna put our little finger down on the 5th fret. Now when that little finger goes down, I want all of the fingers down at the same time. I don't want these 2 sticking in the air, okay? Open E, the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, the 3rd fret, and then the open E. Now just get that under your belt to begin with. Once you've got that down, I want you to now do it with 2 plucks per note, okay? So then once you do that, I want you to do it with 4 plucks for every note. Okay, so remember, 1 pluck per note to begin with, just get that down, then 2, then 4, then it goes back to 2, okay? So I'm just gonna play it with the drum track. I've got a drum track over here. So first of all, with 1 note. 2 notes, 4 notes, 2 notes, 1 note again. Now we're right back at the beginning. 2 notes, 4 notes, 2 notes, open, okay? But what you can do is you can use the same exercise on the A string, same on the D string. Get used to playing it across the different strings, because when you're playing on the different strings, it's just gonna feel different, okay? And we need to dial in our technique, make sure that our wrist is down, thumbs on the back, hands nice and open, all of that good stuff, okay? So, whoo, I know this has been a long lesson, but hopefully you've learned a lot and you understand all of the parts of the bass, how to plug it in, how to tune it. We talked about a little bit of theory. We probably talked about some stuff I've forgotten, and then finally we got to playing the bass as well. Now, if you have enjoyed the content in this video, make sure that you slap that like button down below, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well, because we upload content like this all of the time. We do tutorials, we talk about bass gear and everything in between. So if you are into bass playing, which hopefully you are if you're at the end of this video, then make sure that you subscribe and like this video as well. And other than that, dudes, it's been awesome. I will see you in the shed.